different strains. It's going to happen, you know.
It is.
So we just hope that they can find one which kind of covers it all. And by the looks of it, it seems the J&J one is going to be the good one as well.
Let's hope so. All right, good morning, everybody. We are now live on Facebook, and I am welcoming again today Todd Mintz live from South Africa. Good evening, Todd. Today it's,
Hi,
you've got
Sarah.
Bobotie with Todd and Sarah. All right. So Cucina Quarantena goes to South Africa tonight. So he's with me live from South Africa, and we're going to be cooking a dish I had never heard of until he proposed it. So sounds like a little bit like moussaka, right?
Okay, well, let me quickly tell you a little bit. Hi, everybody. It's 7:20 p.m. in South Africa, so I'm already drinking red wine, where Sarah's on the coffee, I think. But a little bit about the history of Bobotie as a dish. It originates from the Cape, one of our provinces down south. When the Dutch arrived in 1652, they brought a lot of slaves to start developing the Cape as a refreshment station for the ships going to India. And many of those slaves came from various parts of Africa, as well as Indonesia and Malaysia. So the Malaysian cooking and Indonesian style of cooking became very much a part of the culture in the Cape amongst what we call the Cape colored people, who are of mixed race. So these are people who have ancestors going back into the slave people that arrived early. And then, of course, with the Europeans that arrived, being Dutch, French Huguenots, German, British, they, of course, integrated with some of the slaves over years, over a 200-year period. And you had what was known as the Cape Malay people. Even though only a small percentage were actually from Malaysia, they were known as the Cape Malay people and now known as the Cape Colored people. So Bobotie originates from that era of the 17th century, as far back as that, where they used ingredients that they could locally, source. So they were growing lemons, for instance, and they were bringing getting spices from the ships that were arriving in the harbor, which had been newly created. They had goats. So some of the early recipes were actually using goat meat. Sheep, of course, was also used as well. But then later on, ground beef, as we call it, mince, was the staple. Tonight, I'm using ostrich. It's very popular now to use ostrich in Bobotie. Yep, ostrich is very available. I don't know if it's backwards on the screen, but this is something we buy in the stores in South Africa. We have a huge ostrich area in South Africa, one of the biggest farming ostrich areas in the world. And ostrich is extremely healthy. It's lean. There's no fat. You don't see a fat ostrich. They don't get fed hormones. They eat natural food. They live in an area called Oudtshoorn, which is in the Eastern Cape. It's part of the Western Cape inland from the coast. And there, the natural vegetation is fantastic for them. And of course, the farmers also feed them things like lucerne, which is a very healthy way to feed them as well. They eat a lot of lucerne and a lot of corn.
What is that, lucerne? I don't know what that is.
Lucerne, alfalfa.
Oh, okay.
Same thing. So ostrich meat, I like using it when I make spaghetti bolognese, when I make Bobotie, because there's no fat. So you don't get that big layer of fat sitting on the top. Yeah. Now, your guests on the show, as I said to you the other night, or last night, in fact, I'm not the kind of guy that always sticks to recipes unless it's baking. And I've been cooking this dish for a long time in the bush for my clients, sometimes on the open fire.
Really?
I've got, yep, absolutely. I do a lot of meals on the open fire. So you can use sort of a cast iron dish with a lid that you can then put the coals on the top if you're going to bake it, because there's a baking process as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we did that in Romania last year, or year before last. Yeah, we did that where we cooked over the
open fire. You can bake a cake that way as well, with a cast iron dish. So, so there's a couple of rules that I'm going to be breaking on this. One of the traditional recipes call for you to soak bread in milk and then add it to it. This is very similar to what Americans would call a meatloaf, the way it's prepared.
Yeah.
Very similar. But I find with the bread, especially using ostrich, being no fat, it dries out the dish quite a lot. And the origins of adding bread to this dish go back once again to the slave period, where bread was just to bulk it up, because meat was obviously hard to get. So they would use a little bit of meat and then bulk up the dish with the bread and make it, a bigger portion. So I'm staying away from the bread on this, but some of the basic ingredients which we're going to be using, I've kind of put them all into one here. What I've done is I've actually prepared two dishes, one that's already finished. I did it this afternoon, and one that I'm going to do live now. But the equivalent of these two dishes would be for about 4 people. So each dish is a small dish, which would be for about 2 people. So all the ingredients that I'm going to tell you about and the quantities I've divided in half. So for instance, my major spices in this dish are coriander. Of course, you can use fresh herbs if you can find them. At the moment, coriander is a little bit difficult to get in the stores in South Africa, and I don't have it growing in my garden. But coriander is one of the main ingredients. Cumin is another ingredient that's very important. Paprika, and then a curry powder. You can choose a hot curry powder if you want, or a mild curry powder. Cape Malay food is very different to Indian food. They have similarities in their spices. There we go. But with Cape Malay food, they like to combine spice and sweet. So you don't have that heavy chili effect with Cape Malay food. It's more sort of toned down, and a lot of sweetness as well in their dishes. So besides the cumin, the coriander, the paprika, a little bit of cinnamon, and a little bit of curry powder, we've also going to be adding raisins. Now, Bobotie is not Bobotie without raisins. Some people don't use raisins in their Bobotie because a lot of people don't like raisins. But once again, this comes back from the historical area of Cape Town where they were growing grapes, so raisins were easily available. So that became part of getting the sweetness to the dish. Traditional recipes also call for apricot jam. There we go. Apricot jam. Jam is jelly, I think you call it, or marmalade, or chutney. Some people use both. I prefer to use chutney in South Africa. If there's any South Africans in the States, they will know Mrs. Bull's chutney. Man, is no better chutney than Mrs. Bull's, and this is made from peaches. So chutney originates from India. It's part of the sambals that you would have in an Indian dish. So this particular one that I'm using is made from peaches. So I'm not using the apricot jam, but your guests can use apricot jam for that slight little bit of sweetness. So for a dish, of course, so let me get back to the ingredients. Then we're going to have some fresh lemon.
Okay. Yeah, I got lemon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got lemon.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
All right. Then I've got some chopped up garlic, and I've got some chopped up ginger. Very important.
Okay. I can do that. Fresh ginger, fresh chopped ginger.
Yeah, if you can fresh, that's great. If you have powdered ginger, that's okay. At the moment, ginger and garlic prices in South Africa have gone crazy.
Really?
And then, yeah, I usually would use raisins. I'm using sultanas. They're very similar in effect and taste, but either one, sultanas or raisins, works fine. Either one is fine.
I got the same thing.
Okay, tomato paste, just to give your beef a little bit of I'm using ostrich to give your ground meat a little bit of flavor. So I've got some tomato paste.
Yep.
Fresh onion.
Yep.
Chopped up some fresh onion. Okay. And then, of course, towards the end, the topping of the Bobotie is going to be what we call a egg custard. So there's going to be eggs and a little bit of milk.
Okay. Eggs and milk. So
and
it's going to have like a fluffy cream topping. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see what happens. And also what I add to that egg and milk, which is my own little trick, is a dash of nutmeg.
Ah, that's a good choice. Yeah.
Dash of nutmeg. And then of course salt and pepper as well. And then also when I'm going to be cooking the ground meat, which is ostrich or beef, I also add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. I don't know if you know Worcestershire sauce or Maggi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just to give the beef a little bit of flavor. Okay.
Yes, I love adding that actually. It gives it such a depth.
You can use a bit of stock if you want as well. That's another option. A lot of recipes call for, preparing your beef and your onions and your spices, or in this case, ostrich, to use olive oil or your sunflower oil. I'm a big fan of coconut oil, so I use coconut oil in this one. Okay, it also gives it a nice flavor. So as I said, I've got 2 dishes, one prepared and one I'm going to prepare now. So you can see the result without waiting for it to bake. So the ingredients that I've worked out here is for, let's say, about 4 people. So we're looking at about a tablespoon of each of the spices, okay? 1 whole onion.
Okay.
About 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, a tablespoon of garlic, a tablespoon of ginger. But it's very much a dish you can throw as much as you like in. It's really, there are not a lot of rules with this. But those are the basic ones that I've done there.
So what kind of pan am I using?
Sorry?
What kind of pan do I need to use?
Okay, what I'm using I've already, because this dish is accompanied with rice. I've already cooked the rice.
Okay.
So it's, yeah, and I've used basmati rice. You can use other fragrant rices if you want, jasmine rice if you want. Some people also add turmeric to the rice to give it some color. I haven't done that because I put quite a lot of turmeric in the food itself as well. So, and as we know, turmeric is great because it's an antioxidant, I mean, what do you call it? Anti-inflammatory. Yeah. So if you can get fresh turmeric, all good. I just got a regular saucepan.
Okay.
Regular saucepan, and then your bobotie is going to go into the oven in a Pyrex dish or something that can handle some heat. It can be glass or ceramic.
But theoretically, I could cook it in this and then just bake it in this.
That's fine. You can use the wok, and then you're just going to transfer it into a dish that can go in the oven for it to bake for about 30 minutes.
Get going.
All right, cool. Okay. You can also preheat your oven as well. In South Africa, we work on centigrade, not Fahrenheit. Okay. So I'm not sure what the conversion is, but probably put it on to quite hot to start with. Okay. On your plate. If you're using gas, that's great as well. And then you're going to add your onions. First of all, just add about a tablespoon of your coconut oil. So about a tablespoon. In fact, I actually have a hand. Cool.
I love coconut oil. I'm really getting addicted to using it. It gives the food texture.
Yeah, it's fantastic stuff. I really like it. Let me just turn up my volume so I can hear you better. Right, and then once that coconut oil starts getting nice and hot, you can throw the onions in. You can use red onions if you prefer. I've just used a regular onion. So obviously I'm using half an onion now because I've divided all my ingredients in half to make 2 dishes instead of one, but this is roughly for 4 people, you'd use 1 whole onion in your pan. And just keep that much onion. My oven is fairly quick. It'll start getting hot. Then what we're going to do is what I've done with all my spices is I've combined them. So 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of coriander. I'll just wait for you, Sarah. Sorry.
Yeah, hang on a sec. Let me get the onions rolling here. Now I'm going to grab a little bowl.
Yeah, just get a little bowl. I like to mix all my spices together, make a little.
Okay, so let's make the spice mix again. You said 1 teaspoon of coriander.
1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of coriander.
Okay, got them.
2 teaspoons of curry powder. Can be mild, can be hot. It's totally up to yourself. 1 teaspoon of paprika. Or paprika. Yeah, okay. That's cool. And then about half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay.
Oh, that's all I've got left, so that's perfect.
Yeah, that's all good. That's all good. And then 1 teaspoon of turmeric.
I have an extremely well-stocked spice cabinet. Luckily, I have everything you asked for.
Excellent. And then also you can put in 2 teaspoons of herbs. I've just used a regular sort of mixed herbs, but if you've got herbs growing in your garden, like oregano or basil or anything green, but I just use a regular mixed spice or Italian herbs, which is a bit of everything, and put about 2 teaspoons of that into the mix.
Okay.
My onions are starting to sizzle. Just gonna move them off for a second. Okay, you want to stir all of that up?
Okay.
All right. And then when your onions are starting to sizzle and starting to get a little bit golden, take all of that, mix it all around, and just put 4 teaspoons of that mixture in. Whatever's left, you can use again. I'm just trying to make it simple. Okay, so put 4 teaspoons into your pan with your onions.
4 teaspoons. Okay, so there will be some left over, right?
Sorry, not teaspoons, tablespoons. Tablespoons. It's a little bit too much. Yeah.
So I'm going to put most of this into the onions now.
Yeah, most of that should go in. In fact, with you making for 4, so you can put all of that in. That's not a problem.
All right. All of it.
Okay, good. And then stir that around into your onions, just so that they can mix in with the onions a little bit and get a little bit of heat on it. Start getting some nice smells. Try not to let it stick to the pan too much. All right. Once it's kind of into your onions, just move your pan to the side. I'm going to have a sip of wine.
Take a break and have a sip of wine. All right. That's part of the instruction on the recipe, right?
There we go.
I learned
some good smells. You should start getting some good smells now. Oh, one last ingredient that I forgot, sorry, is bay leaves. You know bay leaves?
Yep.
So put about 4 bay leaves. I'm going to put 2 because I'm doing half of what you're doing.
Okay.
Put about 4 bay leaves in there. Bay leaves is a very important part of this dish.
All right, so it's looking pretty roasty toasty. So what's next?
All right, take it to one side for a second because now we're gonna add the meat.
All right.
So we're looking at for about 4 people, you're looking at probably around about 600 or 700 grams of meat. You can go for a kilogram of meat if you really want to. You can up it up to 6 people. I've just cooked 2 batches of 250 grams each.
And I've got a pound, so I'm doing half.
There you go. That'll do fine. Okay, put that in your pan and just start sort of messing it up so that you get some onion in there and some of your spices. You can turn your heat down a little bit. You don't want to burn the meat, you just want to start browning it. And at this point, you also can add a little bit of the Worcestershire sauce or Maggi, whatever seasoning that you want to add to it, or stock. Some people add a bit of stock. But I'm just putting a liberal amount of Worcestershire sauce in there.
What, like maybe 3 or 4 shakes?
There we go, looking good, looking good. Okay. Just start getting that meat nice and brown. All right, then you take your lemon, cut it in half, and squeeze your lemon into there.
Putting a half a lemon in? Really?
Half a lemon, believe me.
Okay, I believe you.
This is an extremely, extremely good dish for you guys having winter. You've got garlic, you've got ginger, you've got lemon, all the things you need to fight off any nasty things.
So I don't need to squeeze it, I don't need to zest it, I just throw the whole darn thing in.
Also depends on the size of your lemon. Yeah, that'll be fine, 100%.
All right.
Okay, so you got the lemon in there now. Got a bit of liquid. Okay, next step, throw in your garlic and your ginger. All of it. And you can add more if you so feel. Garlic and ginger, I always say there's no limits to that. Also really good for you, healthy. You see your mince should start getting nice and brown. Just try not to let it catch too much on the pan. You've got a wok, so that's perfect. Uncle Roger would be very proud of you.
This is it's called a chef's pan. It's kind of halfway between a saute pan and a wok, and it's my best pan. I love it. I make everything in it.
Yeah, there's actually a wok hanging up on the side of the wall next to me, which I love as well. But then I use gas. It's much better to use gas with the wok. Now I'm cooking on electricity. You can preheat your oven now to about 180 degrees centigrade, which I have no idea what that is in Fahrenheit.
I put it on to about 375 or 400.
There we go. That'll do. Okay. How are we looking? Starting to get some nice color?
Yeah, it looks great and it smells fantastic.
Oh, it's going to smell good. It's got to smell good. If it doesn't smell good, you've done something wrong. Cool.
Very fragrant. I mean, we've got so many interesting spices in here. All right, so here's what I'm looking like so far.
Oh yeah, perfect, perfect. Okay, now you add your tomato paste.
Okay.
Looking at about two tablespoons of tomato paste. Also give it a nice color and give it some balance, nice acidity coming in there as well. You've got the lemon, you've got the tomato, and then all those spices. It's just going to be fantastic. You can turn it down quite a bit now. You don't want it to be sort of cooking too much because it's also going to spend some time in the ovens. You just want it to to be warm, basically, just to absorb all the flavors.
Gotcha.
Cool. Of course, salt and pepper to your taste, whatever you fancy, however much you want. Also, depending on the quality of your meat, ostrich has quite a lot of flavor, so you don't really have to put too much salt and pepper in, but that's totally up to yourself. All right, and then take about, I'm going to use about half a handful, you're going to use about a handful of raisins and throw them in. Sultanas work just as well. If people who are watching don't like raisins or sultanas, we will forgive them and they can do it without, but traditionally you would put that in the dish.
Seriously, Todd, I would never, ever have thought to put these ingredients in one dish.
Yes, it's an unusual dish. It's even spelt unusually and it's pronounced unusually. Some people say Bobotie, especially the British, or Bobotie.
Yeah.
And as I say, any of your listeners who are watching or your viewers, they can just Google the word Bobotie and you're going to get recipes from all over South Africa from so many different chefs. It's a very, very popular dish. Every restaurant in Cape Town serves it. When I'm on tour with Reed, with Imprint, we go to the Boer Kaap area, which is the old Cape Malay slave area, which has been rejuvenated. And they offer tours, which are actual cooking tours. You can actually go and cook Bobotie with the people where it originates from, which is always great. It's like going to Thailand and learning to cook Thai. So you can go to Cape Town and learn to cook. I'm going to put the lid on my mince now, and I'm going to turn it off.
Okay.
So you can just turn yours off. You don't have to worry about cooking it too much longer. It will still keep cooking a little bit in there. Because ground beef, you don't want to overcook it. It cooks very fast because already all the tissues have been broken down in the grinding process. Right. How are we doing?
We're doing good. I'm just checking comments to see if anybody's got questions, and
I'll have another sip of wine.
All right, you have your sip of wine. So there's some question about what kind of meat we're using. I'm using ground beef. Todd's using ostrich. So, and also
we forgot the chutney.
Oh, the chutney. Okay. And one of the questions was the entire lemon or just the juice? The entire lemon, right?
Just the juice. Just the juice.
I put the whole lemon in.
No, it doesn't matter. Take it out now. Just the juice. Sorry. Yeah, just squeeze the whole lemon's juice into the pan. It's fine that you had it in there. You'll get a little bit of lemon zest. It's no problem.
Yeah, actually, that was not a terrible idea because it's very fragrant.
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the lemon juice, not the whole lemon. And then about two tablespoons of chutney, or if you don't have chutney, you can use marmalade, or you can use apricot or peach jam, or what you call jelly, I think.
I'm using an orange and fig spread.
Fantastic. Just something that's going to give it some sweetness together with the sultanas or the raisins. That's very much part of Malay cooking.
Okay.
And as I say, all these ingredients were things that were available in the Cape when it was a refreshment station under the Dutch before the British arrived.
Okay, I think I'm good.
Okay, cool. You can just leave that now. Let it just calm down and absorb those flavors. The next phase we're going to go into now is making the custard for the topping. So you're going to put about 4 tablespoons of milk into a jug or a measuring dish of some kind. About 4 tablespoons.
Okie dokie.
And then we're going to crack 2 eggs. You're going to use 4. Because remember, I've halved everything to make 2 dishes.
Gotcha.
One that's complete and one that's going in the oven now. So 2 eggs. You're going to put 4 eggs. Sorry, 4 eggs. Fantastic. And a pinch of turmeric. Be careful. Turmeric. I mean, not turmeric, nutmeg.
Okay.
It's very strong in flavor, so just a little pinch, and that'll do the trick. And then you want to get a whisk or a fork and just beat it up. Just want to get a little bit of air in there, get it nicely mixed up.
is so fast. I can't believe how quickly this is coming together.
Such a good quick dish. You can do this in literally 20 minutes. That's why it's a great dish to cook when you're on a tour in the bush, because it gives you more time to sit around the fire and socialize and less time of preparing. It's a really
I love
quick
that you cook for your tour members. I've done that a few times, and I don't know what it is about cooking for my tour members. It is such a joy. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, when I very first started doing, overland tours with backpackers to keep the prices down, we did everything on the fire. I mean, we cooked everything on the fire.
That's so
barbecues, cool. Pasta, whatever. It was always on the fire or on gas that we had with us in the vehicle. But it is nice to sit around a fire and actually watch somebody preparing a meal for you. Cool. So we got the egg going there. Okay. Now what you're going to do is going to get your dish that you're going to be using in the oven, whether it's a ceramic dish or a metal dish for the oven, whatever you need, and you're going to transfer your bobotie transfer your bobotie into the dish and leave at least, depending on the size of your dish, just leave 10 centimeters or whatever for your egg.
Okay, I'm super lazy, so I'm going to leave the bobotie in the pan and bake it in the pan.
No problem. That's not a problem at all.
So just mash it down and pour the egg over the top.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Just let me show you. I'm just going to add the mince now. I've made quite a lot because it won't go to waste. It's one of my favorite dishes. So, your mince and all your ingredients now is pretty much halfway there. Well, it's pretty much cooked. The next phase is really just to get the egg to bake on the top, which is what bobotie is all about. So I'm using quite a small dish here. As you can see, I've left a little bit of space on the top. I'm going to take the egg. I'm literally just going to pour it off the back of the fork all over the mince. It's not going to sink to the bottom. It's a strange thing there. It's going to stay on top. Are you still with me?
I am. I'm pouring right now.
That's looking fantastic.
It smells so good. I hate to sound like surprised, but when I looked at the recipe, I was a little bit like, okay.
That's great. That's going to be so cool.
All right.
And then you just take a couple of bay leaves and put them on the top just for decoration. You can make a little 3-leaf clover. It looks pretty. And then you gently place that in the oven.
All right. Very pretty.
There we go. And then you want to keep it on bake for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then you want to put it on grill for about 5 minutes. Just to brown the top nicely. But when it's on grill, just keep an eye on it. Now I'm going to take my little bobotie here that I've put in there. And I'm going to take out the one that we're going to eat for dinner. So let me just see if you can see that. Can you see that?
I can. Look how pretty that is.
Well, there we go.
Gorgeous.
And then, of course, traditional way you would serve it with some rice. I've got jasmine rice, one of my favorites. You can use any kind of rice you want. And you can add a little bit of... Debs, don't you want to grab some mint for me? I'm just talking to my sister.
Oh.
She's going to grab some fresh mint, just to look pretty. And then we're going to take... So this would be enough for 2 people, what I've cooked here, with a nice size helping per person. And I've got a nice crust on top, which is great. Still sizzling. There we go. Bear with me a second. And then it is served traditionally like with Indian food. It's served with sambals, as they call them. So the sambals that we're going to use for this one, I just got them in the fridge here. Let me find them. This just is an accompaniment for your dish, which is fantastic. So we've got some tomato and onion chopped up. And I've put in some oregano, as we call it oreganum. You call it oregano, which is growing in my garden. But traditionally, you would use coriander, fresh coriander. I'm going to add a little bit of balsamic vinegar to that. just a little splash. And I'm going to add some brown sugar, just like half a teaspoon. So for your dish for 4 people, you could use 1 whole tomato and a small piece of onion to get this little sambal going. Now that would be on the side, like that. And then, of course, another one which you're going to think is strange, but most Indian food and also Malay food is also served with an accompaniment of banana.
Banana?
Banana, yeah, there we go. Believe me, it works. If you go to a very authentic curry restaurant, they should be giving you banana, sambals, and even coconut sometimes, but that's not a Cape Malay thing. So there we go, guys. Bobotie.
Gorgeous. Look at that.
So we've got the mince, and on the top is the egg, which is browned nicely, some beautiful white rice, jasmine rice, some banana, and some tomato and onion sambal. Delicious. How easy was that?
That is fantastic. I wish I was in the kitchen with you there, Todd. And someday I will be. I promise I'll come and visit you someday and you can make it for me in person. I don't know if mine will turn out as good, but you know, it'll probably be fine. And I have teenagers, so it doesn't really matter how it turns out. They'll eat it.
So after about 15 minutes, you'll see the egg is starting to bake, and then just put it on grill and keep an eye on it so that it doesn't burn. It'll get nice and brown on top. They're going to love it. They're absolutely going to love it.
Wow. Okay. Well, this has been so great, Todd, and you're so fast. It's been really fun. So for all of you watching out there, again, this is Todd, who is in South Africa, and he and Reed are going to do a Southern African tour this year. And then I think I'm going to be working with him probably next year or the year after. So we'll see. We'll get something on the calendar. Cool. And all of the recipes that we've gone through today, I'm going to sit down and write down. So it'll appear in the comments.
You can, anybody just Google the word Bobotie, Babotie, and they will find recipes for it. But as I say, your main ingredients are coriander, cumin, paprika, curry, turmeric, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of herbs, garlic, ginger, lemon, a little bit of sweetness in the form of a jam or a chutney, and then it combined all of that in the various stages into the ground mince or ostrich if you can get it. I mean, you could use lamb mince for this as well. There's no reason why you couldn't do that. And then add your raisins as well, and then top it off with a little bit of an egg custard, which is egg and milk with a dash of nutmeg in that, and then let it bake for about 15 minutes and about 5 minutes under the grill. So, you know, you're looking at about 10 to 15 minutes prep time and probably 30 minutes cooking time. It's really easy.
Really easy. And I like how flexible it is too. So you can add and subtract ingredients depending on your
and for, you know, it's tasty, so kids will love it, and it's full of nutrition.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Todd. This has been a lot of fun. So you're going to return on Thursday, right?
Thursday, I'm doing a virtual tour, which will be quite early in the morning for you guys. I think it's around about 4 p.m. for us, because a lot of these places close at 5 and it starts getting dark already. It's been moving into autumn. So yeah, it's on Thursday. I'm going to be doing a virtual tour in Johannesburg, downtown Joburg. So whoever's never seen Joburg is going to see a bit of Johannesburg. We call it Joburg. And it's going to be at Constitutional Hill, where the Constitutional Court is, that has been built there. And then also on the grounds, I'll be showing the fort, which was also used as a prison for political prisoners in South Africa. So it's a very interesting journey we're going to go on Thursday.
Fantastic. So that's Thursday. I'll post the time. I think our time, we just had daylight savings time. So I think we decided it was around 7 a.m. Pacific time. So I'll post the time for that after I'm 100% sure, but that's going to be fantastic. If you have never been to South Africa, you get to take a virtual tour of Johannesburg with Todd, who is clearly very well informed. So I'm looking forward to learning from him myself. So thanks again. We'll see you on Thursday. And thank you everybody for watching. Tomorrow, Reed is going to be the host, and he's going to be talking about gorilla tourism with somebody who works with tours that go into gorilla preserves. So join us for that tomorrow. So thanks a lot, Todd.
Cool, Sarah. Enjoy your Bobotie.
I will.